Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely crucial that affects, well, literally every industry, economy, and honestly the future of our planet. For decades now, we've basically been locked into these outdated consumption and production models. And you know the result. It's led to resource depletion, environmental degradation, and just massive inefficiencies all around. But there is a seriously powerful solution, and it sits right in the hands of organizations and their purchasing power. So let's jump into Joyce Haloon's comprehensive research on circular supply chains together and see how shifting our paradigm from a traditional linear procurement model to a dynamic circular one might just be the game changer we need.
Okay, so here's our playbook for today. 1. The paradigm shift. 2. Shift 1. Functional specifications. 3. Shift 2. Life cycle costing. 4. Shift 3. Destroying silos. And 5. The call to action.
All right, let's start with number 1, the paradigm shift.
So here is the core difference perfectly laid out. The traditional linear procurement model is basically a straight, highly destructive pipeline. It's built entirely on a take, make, dispose plan. We mine raw materials, we process them into products, focusing purely on keeping costs as low as possible, right? We use them, and then we just discard them as waste in a landfill. It's completely unsustainable. It exhausts the planet's resources and causes heavy pollution. But then we have the circular model. It's an infinite loop. Design, produce, use, and then repurpose or recycle. The ultimate goal here? Zero waste. By bringing circularity into procurement, we actually design out the waste and pollution from the very start. We're keeping products and materials in use at their absolute highest value. We stop treating waste as garbage, and we start treating it as a secondary raw material. The contrast is just stark. One leads straight to environmental and financial ruin, and the other builds a resilient, sustainable, and prosperous economy. Moving on to number 2, Shift 1, Functional Specifications.
Now, I really want you to ask yourself this directly. What do you really need? And more importantly, do you actually need to buy this brand new? This is all about challenging those traditional purchasing reflexes we all have. In the old linear model, a buyer would simply write up these highly rigid technical specifications. I need exactly this type of machine with these exact dimensions. But doing that completely limits the creativity and innovation of the supplier. It literally forces a brand new product to be manufactured every single time.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is moving away from those rigid technical specs and instead embracing functional specifications. You aren't buying a product, you're buying a function or a solution. When you focus on the function you actually need, a whole new world of circular options opens up. This means exploring alternatives to buying new, things like renting or leasing, where the supplier actually maintains ownership and responsibility for the product's upkeep, or even buying secondhand and refurbished. By shifting to functional demands, we drastically limit raw material consumption, and we actually stimulate suppliers to innovate and create new, circular business models. Because remember, in circularity theory, sometimes the absolute best procurement is, well, avoiding procurement altogether.
Okay, let's look at number 3, Shift 2, Life Cycle Costing.
Let's define a couple of critical financial terms here. Life cycle costing, or LCC, and total cost of ownership, TCO. In a linear model, buyers usually just look at the initial purchase price, right? Whoever is cheapest wins the bid. But circular procurement demands that we calculate the cost of the product over its entire lifespan. We're looking for long-term cost efficiency. And this is vital because it proves to the finance department and to stakeholders that circularity isn't just about being green or eco-friendly, it is genuinely a superior, highly efficient economic strategy.
Think about an iceberg for a second. The initial purchase cost is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what you can easily see right above the water. But lurking way down below the surface are massive, hidden, long-term costs. When we use life cycle costing, we factor all of that in. We factor in the transport costs, we factor in the energy consumption required to run the product over, say, 5 or 10 years, we calculate the operating and maintenance costs like cleaning fees or replacement parts, and crucially, we factor in the disposal costs, like will it actually cost us money to throw this away? Or does it have a residual value where we can maybe sell it back to the supplier at the end of its use? When you really sit down and run these numbers, the circular option, which, might have a slightly higher initial price tag, almost always saves the organization significant money in the long run. It is, quite simply, a smarter investment.
Which brings us to number 4, Shift 3, Destroying Silos.
To actually make circularity work, we have got to destroy internal corporate silos. The old model, where the procurement officer just sits in a room alone placing orders, is dead. We need a joint effort, strategic exercise that brings multiple departments to the exact same table. Procurement has to work with finance to align on those life cycle costing budgets we just talked about. They need to sit down with legal to draft entirely new types of professional contracts, like pay-per-use or leasing agreements. The sustainability team has to provide input to make sure the circular requirements are actually hitting our environmental targets. And logistics, they are absolutely vital for figuring out the reverse logistics. How are we getting this product back to the supplier for recycling or repurposing when we're done with it? Internal communication and co-creation are the real secrets to making this whole thing work.
And that collaboration extends outside the organization as well, which brings us to this really powerful quote: "Stop thinking in transactional terms." In the linear economy, buyer-supplier relationships are short-term and purely transactional. You buy, they sell, and you literally never speak again until you need to buy more. Circular procurement completely demands that we abandon this short-term thinking. We have to build long-term responsible relationships with our suppliers. If you're leasing a product or you're expecting a supplier to take it back and refurbish it in 5 years, you need a deep, ongoing partnership. Both parties have to collaborate to ensure the product is manufactured, delivered, used, and maintained responsibly across its entire life cycle.
And finally, number 5, the call to action.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take back to the office today. Think of the end at the beginning. This is the ultimate essence of circular procurement. Before you sign a contract, before you write a single specification, you must ask, what happens to this product when we are done with it? By demanding products and services that are designed for continuous circular use right from the very start, procurement professionals possess the ultimate purchasing power. You literally have the power to move markets, stimulate incredible innovation, and protect our planet's future, all while boosting economic prosperity. The shift from linear to circular just isn't an option anymore. It is an absolute necessity. So as you head into your next project, remember to destroy those silos, look at the total cost of ownership, and always think of the end at the beginning. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you're feeling as energized to make this shift as I am.